Manchin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank both of you all for very informative discussions this morning, and I appreciate all the hard work you've done. When I first came to the Senate in 2010, I came leaving the governor's office of West Virginia and wasn't really that much in tune on the national threats that we had. I was worried about the threats we had in West Virginia. So when I came here, I tried to bone up I was on this committee, my first committee, and I'll never forget, and it had to be early February or late January of 2011, we had all the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all the questions were being asked and identifying the problems we had around the world and the threats we had. And the question was asked to Admiral Mullins, Mike Mullins at that time, what's the greatest threat the United States faces? I thought I'm going to hear about, learning about China more and about Russia and always being Russia and the threat that they have. And then all of a sudden, without hesitating, he said, the debt of our nation is the greatest threat that we face as Americans. So I would ask you all, since we just hit $35 trillion of debt yesterday, what do you all believe is the greatest threat we face? Jane?
Well, let me agree with you that our hemorrhaging debt is a huge threat. And one of the things
no one's even talking about on either of national
we
Democrat,
do.
Republicans, nobody.
Senator, we do in this report. We identify the national debt as a national security threat. And we say that we need to spend smarter and spend more on defense and pay for it. We, on a unanimous basis, are not recommending printing more money. We are recommending finding a way to raise the revenues and reform entitlements. I know that's a sacred cow, sadly, these days, but reform entitlements. And we point out that the interest on the debt is larger than our defense budget.
Well, so you both agree to that,
Yes,
Ambassador?
yes, sir.
Okay. Second, I would say that on your report, you talked about the current force structure that we have, and I think you had identified that the Marines are only ones meeting that, and we agree with that. What you failed to do is basically identify why we have not, or why you all did not take up women being in selective service or joining selective service, because women make up 74% healthcare and education industry, 52% of financial activities. They're a tremendously strong force, and there's a lot of women I don't want to go up against, I can tell you that, in so many ways. But why do you believe, I guess my question is simple, does the Commission support women registering for selective service?
Well, I'll speak for myself. I do. I think that women are a majority of our population, a majority of the talent pool. Many of the most talented women serve on this committee. So yes, they should be. We should be. And
I'll make it clear that it does not. We talked about does not require women to participate in military draft.
I understand.
Which also require
it's registering.
Yeah, registering.
Yes,
that's all.
And my answer to that is yes.
How come y'all didn't address it?
I don't have a good answer for you, Senator Manchin. It's not something we took up. We looked at other elements of the recruiting challenges that the services face.
I got you. Well, I hope you all would visit that, if you will. So I have two more questions. My next question would be Russia. What have we learned about Russia during the Ukraine war? Do you think it's basically shown Russia's vulnerability, or have they learned basically where the vulnerabilities were, strengthened them? What's your concerns?
I think we've learned a lot of things. I mean, at first, I think we've learned that corruption is a feature, not a bug, of the system that Vladimir Putin has created since he became president of Russia, at the turn of the century. I think we've learned that Russian military doctrine is not necessarily going to predict how they actually will fight when a conflict comes up. I think we've learned that we've relearned a lesson that has been true of Russian military history for hundreds of years, which is they're willing to sacrifice the lives of their service folks to gain an objective without regard, to the human costs.
If I could, my final question, if I could, real quickly. I commend your report on attention to defense industrial base, especially munitions and supply chain. However, there was no mention of solid rocket motors. We have a problem. And the problem is this: we continue to keep pouring money into Aerojet Rocketdyne that continually falls short of producing the quality of rockets in the amount we need, but the government is into that, supporting it. And yet the federal government, we own the ABL lab at Rocket City in West Virginia. and they have been producing unbelievable, and no one's saying a word about it. No one's basically pushing. Why are you shoving money into a private entity when the board changes? Who's buying stock ownership when you already own one? Have you all looked at that, or would you, and basically bring it to a higher level?
Sure, absolutely. And you'll be missed here. You have been very articulate at identifying things, not just that West Virginia does, but
All over
the
the
energy
country.
needs
Yeah.
of this country and why it matters
gotta have-
that we export more energy.
If you would look into it and compare ABL at Rocket City in West Virginia, okay, versus Aerojet Rocketdyne, and look at the ownership, the production, the quality of what we're producing there, because without that, as we've said before, we can't compete. We just can't. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it. Okay? Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Manchin.